All right. Welcome back, YouTubians. Welcome back to the Openly Occultic Book Club. Let me run the intro real quick. All right. So we're back here at the Openly Occultic Book Club. We've been reading Melchizedek and the Mystery of Fire. This is, in fact, season 2 of our book club. Last season, we spent the whole season on the definitive book of human design. This season, we're starting out with Melchizedek and the Mystery of Fire. And today, we're actually doing the last part of the book. So we'll be on a new book the next episode, right? We're on part 3 of Melchizedek and the Mystery of Fire. There's only 3 parts to the book and the intro. Today, we only have 14 pages to read, right? This has been exciting, though. What an amazing or interesting book, to say the least, right? Um, we've been hearing about a different or alternate theory to what's being taught to us in the Bible and the Quran, just your religious books in general, right? Your Abrahamic religions. We're being told in this book by Manly P. Hall, who incidentally was a preacher, we're being told not to take this book literally, that it's coded, symbolism, allegories, all of this to hide the truth of the matter, which is the book is discussing the human body, how the human body works, talking about energy. Okay, this mystery, this fire, this mysterious fire, we're talking about how the body works and how energy flows through the body as well. So I'm glad you guys are here with me today. Before we jump into the book, let's make sure that we like, share, and subscribe. Right? We want other people to hear about this book. So, um, right? You want to click that notification bell, particularly if you're a reader. You love to hear about energy work. You don't want to miss the next book that we're going to jump into. So we're back here in this book. We're wrapping it up. There's a lot going on in the world, as we know. If you're aware of current events in the news, there's a lot going on in the world. I thought this was a good time to talk about how um, there's an esoteric understanding in the Bible. There's a hidden message in the Bible, something hidden in between the lines. Now, to sum it up, some people are saying we're supposed to take this book, this Bible, literally, and then some people are saying no, this book is allegories. It's not to be taken literally. So there's no chosen people on earth, a group of people. There's no chosen land, no, none of this. There's no, the people and places in the Bible are not real. It's coded language. That's what we're being told by this preacher who wrote this book, right? So I said, wow, this is right up my alley hearing about it, because I'm just in a point in my life where I'm ready to hear about the human body. I've done a lot of research, biblical research, and I just like to soak up knowledge, right? I like to learn stuff. So it's come across my path over the years, Gnostic writings, esoteric writings, and what have you. Oh, wait, hold on. Before we go forward, let's get a reminder of what um we need a reminder of what occultic means, right? Because I don't want anybody to be scared or, fearful of what we're talking about here. The definition of occultic, we're simply talking about something that's hidden, right? Something that is mysterious, available only to the initiate, right? Something that the layman wouldn't be privy of. You would have to be an initiate. You would have to go through training to understand some of these things. So occult just means hidden information, which would be mysterious to Like we wouldn't know if we were to go into the surgery room, we wouldn't know how to perform surgery. It would be a mystery to us. But the doctor knows. They've learned a lot about the body and how to perform this job. So, this is not something when we're talking about occultic writings, occultic things. This is something that the layman wouldn't know about. You would have to go through training to learn it. That's all this is, right? It would be mysterious to the non-surgeon, right? But the surgeon would know exactly what to do. They've gone through school. They've been initiated right into the doctor world or what have you. So I wanted to remind you about that, right? We need a reminder because this is a sensitive topic, right? I'm actually at risk of being kicked off YouTube, right? Censored, right? So, but this is a conversation that needs to be had. It's a serious topic. There's a lot of people on this earth who take this book literally. That's all they know for generations. And then there's people that are saying, hey, no, this is coded language. We're simply talking about the human body, the organs, the muscles, the nerves, right? We're talking about Kundalini energy, Kundalini rising, right? So if you don't know about that, you can Google Kundalini rising, right? Right? I could pull up the internet if I wanted to at the moment. I don't really want to do that at the moment. We just want to talk about these things and then jump into the book. Right? You can Google Kundalini in your own time, right? But in the meantime, we're talking about. Well, he described it best in part one of the book. He was talking about a mysterious lamp that continues to burn even without new oil being added to the lamp. A mysterious process. He's talking about lore, a myth, right? A myth that plenty of people discussed. So, he's talking about, in essence, he's talking about the oil that rises up from the root chakra or the lower part of your spine, rises up the spine way, goes, up to the bottom of your skull, your brain. And this is a process. It's called Kundalini rising. It's symbolized by the serpent. So I got a serpent necklace, pendant on my necklace. So, these are just esoteric things that we pick up along the way. But if you're new and haven't heard of these things, I'm very glad you're here. I'm thankful that you're here with us. So, um, let's all get comfortable. Let's get ready because we're going to dive back into this book. We're going to read the last 14 pages, right, of part three, the whole of part three, but it's the last 14 pages of the book. We're going to jump back into that and learn some more about this because it's heating up at this point. I think this is going to be the most impactful part of the book, what we're about to dive into personally. So let's dive into it. And of course, you can meet us in the CGH chat room, the Openly Occultic Book Club chat room on cedargroveherbs.com so we can discuss these books. You could come there and say, hey, can you give me a copy of that book? And I'll give you a copy of this book that we're reading right now for free. So just pop up and join us for conversations. The chat room is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I am building this community. I'm looking for my tribe, people that are into this, talking about the occultic writings, holistic health, right? Wholeness and balance. We believe the mission, the vision, the assignment at this time is to raise your vibration. So, no matter if you're old or new, if you've been doing this a long time or you're brand spanking new, we welcome you. And hey, let's learn. Let's just read what we're being told, right? Now, I want to, before we get into this, as we see, part three is called The Sacred Fire in the Spine and Brain. Part two was about man, our body, the body, humans. And then part one was about fire. So here, after talking about fire and man, we're going to get a summation, I'm sure. And I'm pretty sure we'll get a lot more information here discussing the spine and the brain, this sacred fire, right? Um, Before we do that, though, I want to back up a little bit. I was looking over part 2, the last video we made, and I think the point I saw that I wanted to discuss was on page 27. So let me do that real quick. Let's go to page 27 towards the bottom. We are told, this is something we read in the last video, we're told that anyone can read the book of Ezekiel and the book of Revelation. Anyone reading it could or should realize that the beloved disciple John, transcending all the other disciples in his vision, was indeed lifted up or raised, as a modern Mason might say, and beheld the paganry of the mysteries, right? We were discussing how the pagans, the indigenous, were the ones that came to the understanding of the esoteric understanding of life, if you will, the sacred fire. Along the way, these things were lost in translation and forgotten. But that's the true Christianity. Modern day Christianity is taking this esoteric coded book and interpreting it in a literal way. And he's saying that's wrong. But the point I wanted to discuss was it says that the allegories of St. John, who wrote the book of Revelation, are drawn from every religion of the ancient world. There's something hidden in that. The allegories of St. John are drawn from every religion of the ancient world. What's the religion of the ancient world? I've been talking about Tartaria a lot. In this video, while going over this book, I continuously bring it up. Last season in the definitive book of human design, when we were reading that book, I brought it up a few times. This Tartaria, Tartian, Tartarian Empire, or Tartaria, Tartaria, right? So, and since we started out the book club with human design, there's a lot of human design people here, and I'm sure they are wondering why do you keep bringing up Tartaria? What's this Tartaria, right? And so I said or made a point at one point discussing the human design system that it is my belief that the human design system is from Tartaria. Human design, for those that don't know, is a synthesis of the chakra system, the Kabbalah, astrology, what else? Let's see, quantum physics, genetics, you know. It's a synthesis of all these things. The founder of this human design system calls himself Ra Uru Hu. So I was pointing out, you can go back to you can go back in the playlist, the Openly Occultic podcast playlist, if you're interested in hearing more about this. But I was saying, hey, I feel like this is from Tartaria. Tartaria was a worldwide empire. We have evidence of Tartaria existing all over the earth. You have your pyramids and your Tartarian buildings all over the world, which led me to believe, and many other people to come to the conclusion that Tartaria was a worldwide empire. Clearly, they knew about ancient science, energy work, right? Clearly. So when we got to human design and we're talking about how human design is a synthesis of all these different things, I said, hey, this is Tartaria to me because in this one empire, this empire existed before all other religions. When we're talking about religions these days, or if we say, okay, human design is part of the Tartarian empire knowledge, the today human design is a combination of the Indian Brahmin chakra system, astrology, which we know is Babylonian, Egyptian, the Kabbalah, right? This is Turkey. What is it? Uh, Iran, Turkey. Zoroastrian, right? Just a combination of all these things, quantum physics, genetics, all these things. This is before the one religion or spirituality, if you will, was divided or broken apart. So there was wholeness before the division. So I feel like human design, all these different religions, and as we see in this book, is saying the allegories of John are drawn from every religion of the ancient world. That's because the ancient world, Tartaria, existed before all these religions were created. So the ancient knowledge being disseminated in a divisive way, it was division. Before the division, there was wholeness, right? There was one. And so from the one came many. So from this one Tartarian spirituality, which he's calling pagan mysteries, that is actually what Christianity is about. Somebody forgot and they're taking it literally. But the truth is, the indigenous, the ancient Tartarians, disseminated this information for teaching, for people to understand. So I just wanted to point that out. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Hopefully, you'll leave a comment. Leave me a number 7 in the comments. Let me know you understand what I'm trying to say here, because the Tartarian talk is new. The human design system is fairly new. Hardly anybody really knows about it. So as is often for me, I'm 5 to 10 years early. That's the life I live, right? But if you know what I'm talking about, please leave me a number 7 in the comments so I know you're out there and I'm not alone, right? So we're gonna jump back into this. We're on part 3. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Right? Uh, go ahead and as we get into this book, let's leave a like, right? All right. So, part 3, the sacred fire in the spine and brain. Santi called the medulla spinalis, or the spinal cord, the central axis of the nervous system. Excuse me. I didn't mean to do that. So, the central axis of the nervous system is the spinal cord. In a person of average size, the spinal cord is about 18 inches in length, and it weighs approximately 1 ounce and terminates opposite the first lumbar vertebrae. Okay? The upper end of the spinal cord, passing upward through the foramen magnum, the large opening in the occipital bone of the skull, ends at the medulla oblongata. Running through the spinal cord is a tiny central channel referred to as the sixth ventricle. This is described as follows. It is just visible to the naked eye, but it extends throughout the cord and expands above the fourth ventricle. In the conus medullaris, it is also dilated, forming the ventriculus terminalis by Crossi. Okay, so a lot of big words, medical words, Latin words, right? So what we like to do and teach and let people know is you can take your time reading. There's no time limit. You can stop and go look up these words and know what we're talking about, right? Um, it's always good to do. Get yourself familiar, you know. But we see we're talking about the spinal cord for sure. According to the Eastern system of occult culture, there are 49 sacred nerve centers in the body, in the human body. of which the 7 most important and key centers are placed near the spine at various intervals. The total number, 49, is the square of 7 and is also the number of rounds and sub-rounds of a planetary chain. When seen clairvoyantly, all of these centers resemble flowers or electric sparks. Speaking of electric, let me turn on my fire sound effect, right? We're talking about sacred fire. We want the fire sound going. And we said, hey, this fire sound sounds like electricity, right? Mm-hmm. I'll turn it down a little so it's not overpowering my voice. All right. So, when seen clairvoyantly, all of these centers resemble flowers or electric sparks, right? The sacred fire. Each one of the 7 main plexuses has 6, or excuse me, let's slow down. Each one of the 7 main plexuses has 6 of lesser importance surrounding it, thus forming 6 pointed stars grammatically, although the centers are not arranged in star-like order in the body. Okay? Concerning the continued recurrence of the sacred number 7, I'm a life number 7. Yay, me. And I met 2 life number 7s in the past 3 weeks. Can you believe that? I have never, not according to what I knew, because I didn't know about life numbers to ask people, and calculate. But I haven't, since knowing about it, this is the first time I've met anybody that was life number 7 in person. And then here I am, I met 2 people in 3 weeks, right? So I've been excited. I'm like, what is the universe saying to me? I'm paying attention, guys. I'm listening. I'm locked in, right? So, concerning the continued recurrence of the sacred number 7 in connection with the organs and parts of the human body, H.P. Blavatsky writes, remember that physiology, imperfect as it is, shows septenary groups all over the exterior and interior of the body. Septenary, you can look it up, it means 7. So it shows groups of 7 all over the exterior and interior of the body. How? The 7 orifices, the 7 organs at the base of the brain. Okay, there's 7 organs, quote unquote organs, at the base of the brain. You have the 7 plexuses, the pharyngeal, the laryngeal, cavernous, cardiac, that's 4, epigastric, that's 5, which is the same, I think this is a typo. The epigastric is the same as the solar plexus. Okay. The prostatic, that's 6, and the sacral plexus, that's 7. All right, so the 7 plexuses, which we just read, and do you guys want to look it up? We could look it up. We could look it up. Let's look it up. I need to pull up the internet to look this up. So I'm going to look it up so that we can know what we're talking about here. All right. So let's see. I need to open the internet. Let's do that. We just want Google. That's all I want. So Google. Excuse me. Thank you for being patient. I could have had it pulled up already, huh? Like, dang, what's up? So thank you for your patience. And before I lose you, we're going to pull this internet up right now. Right? So we're going with this. Let me close this PDF. And I got my camera in the corner so it's not going to hide your view. Okay. So let's look up some of these words. The first word is, remember, we're talking about the 7 plexuses. The first word is pharyngeal. Pharyny. Excuse me. I could do this. Pharyn. Is that a dyslexic moment? Geal. The pharyngeal. What's that? Relating to the pharynx. The pharynx, commonly called the throat, is a muscular tube in the middle of your neck. Helps you breathe and digest food. That's very important, right? The pharynx is the part of the throat behind the mouth and nasal cavity and above the esophagus and trachea. It's found in vertebrates. Okay. So let's from here on out, I'm gonna say pharyngeal definition. First of all, same stuff. Okay. And then let's just pull up a picture. Let's pull up images, right? Let's be thorough. See what we're talking about. Okay. I see. Right? The pharyngeal. Pharynx. So we could do this for every word that we just saw. We're learning about the human body. We're learning about the 7 group nature. How you got 7s on the interior and exterior of your body. A lot of these things are grouped in 7. And the very first one we're dealing with is throat and digestion, which are very important. The next one is laryngeal. I'll keep the last 4 and say Laryn. Laryngeal. Let's get the definition, right? The meaning of laryngeal is of, relating to, or used on the larynx. Laryngeal cancer forms in the tissues of the larynx, areas of the throat that contains the vocal cords. Okay. So laryngeal is relating to the larynx. Important. Your voice box. A hollow tube in the middle of your neck helps you breathe and make sounds. Very important, right? And then we talk. Animals don't. So we making all kind of sounds, right? So, I mean, they talk. These animals talk. We just can't. I'm going to just walk that whole thing back anyway, because I'm a big fan of 101 Dalmatians, and I believe these dogs talk to each other all the time. I be hearing them talk in the neighborhood from one house to the next. I'm like, they're communicating. Somebody's coming into the neighborhood, and they're warning each other about it before we know. Isn't that cool? So, so, I'll walk that back. We all got this. We all got a larynx, human and animals. Come on, we make noises. Vocal cord, it's important. So that's that. And I'm going to just go quickly. The cavernous, let's look that up. We know that we're not looking for this definition, a large open space. Should I say, since we're talking about plexuses, let me say cavernous plexus, right? Come on. The cavernous plexus, or Walther plexus, is a network of sympathetic nerves located besides the sella turcica, or turcica, situated below and medial to the internal carotid artery within the cavernous sinus. It primarily provides autonomic innervation to the eye and surrounding structures, arising mainly from the internal carotid nerve. So nerves, right? The cavernous nerve plexus, you know what I mean? The carotid artery, that's important. Man, is it? It's important. So a nerve coming up out of the that important artery, yeah, or something. This is great. Mm, okay. So kind of like a yeah, because we saw the word sinus, we saw the eye, talking about the eye. So we can see it's located in here, around the sinuses, the nose, and the eye socket. Okay. Complex venous plexus located at the base of the brain, lateral to the sella turcica and the pituitary gland. Mm-hmm. So look up that more of that in your spare time. Bring us what you know into the openly occultic, the chat room, right? If you're good at picking up and understanding this stuff, come help us understand better. We want to talk about energy work and wholeness and balance and the body and all this stuff. We want to talk about this. We want to get the understanding. So the more people to help us get the understanding quicker, the better, right? So if you can understand this and this is right up your alley, come teach us. Come tell us. We want to hear, right? So we're getting a example or a view of where we find this in the body, right? In the body. So this is great. All right, let's see. That was 3. It's 7. The next one is cardiac. I'm going to keep this word plexus since that's what we're discussing. 7 plexuses. There's one called the cardiac plexus. What's that? Okay, it's a network of nerves at the base of the heart. See, this is important. Located near the aortic arc and tracheal bifurcation that regulates heart rate, cardiac force, and blood pressure. So this is important. This cardiac plexus, talking about your heart rate, your cardiac force, and blood pressure, yes. It consists of superficial and deep parts that distribute sympathetic or increased heart rate and parasympathetic, decreased heart rate fibers to the heart. Okay. A lot of information. We're going to keep learning this type of stuff. We're in the age of Aquarius, right? We're in wake up season, learning about self love. To love ourselves, one fact we have to admit and acknowledge is we have a human body. It's made up of all this stuff we know nothing about. We know a few things, but we don't know, you know what I mean? So we're here now. We're going to learn about it in your personal life and in my life. We're going to start learning about it. It's necessary, right? So we see what we're talking about, right? We're learning how to research and get information, learning how to get good keywords so we can find what we're Googling, right? And then there's epigastric, which is also, as it said in the writing, is also the solar plexus, right? The epigastric plexus, commonly known as the celiac plexus or solar plexus, yes, is a dense network of nerves located in the upper abdomen, located in the upper abdomen behind the stomach and in front of the aorta. It acts as a central hub for autonomic nerves, supplying sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers to vital organs like the liver, pancreas, and intestines. Yes, very necessary. Okay, I got my tea today, right? Drinking my tea. Today I'm drinking passion flower actually for the nervous system. I've had an exciting weekend, a lot of action, and just to soothe my nerves, right? I got a lot of Mercury. I'm a Gemini Sun, Virgo Moon, and I got a lot of Virgo. My Venus is in Gemini. I just got a lot of mercurial, so you know that comes with a high nervous system, right? So I got to do what I got to do for myself, right? Wholeness and balance. Incidentally, you can get this mug at cedargroveherbs.com. It says Witch's Brew. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm drinking my tea. Um, and as we see, when it comes to this epigastric plexus or the solar plexus, It's a central hub for autonomic nerves, supplying sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers to vital organs like the liver, pancreas, and intestines. That's important, right? That's important. So we look at the images? Nope. We just got here. So we see the epigastric region here. Mm-hmm. Yep. You go ahead and continue your research more into this at your leisure. The next one is the prostatic plexus. Prostatic, right? Mm-hmm. The prostatic plexus, nervous, is a network of autonomic nerves, sympathetic and parasympathetic, originating from the pelvic plexus, located within the fibrous capsule of the prostate. This is important. It supplies nerves to the prostate, seminal vesicles, and cavernous nerves, which are crucial for penile erection and ejaculation. This is very important, right? Our men, when they get older, they can't get erect. They sit there trying to pee for a long time. They can't pee. This is important. So the plexus lies within the prostatic fascia surrounding the prostate gland. It distributes nerves to the prostatic gland, seminal vesicles, and corporal cavernosa of the penis and urethra, right? So that's what I said. You can't get hard and you have a hard time peeing. What's going on? Well, have you looked into your prostatic plexus? Hey, we're learning. We're learning. And the last one is the sacral plexus. The sacral plexus is a network of nerves formed by spinal nerves L4 through 7-4. Okay, I see an image here. Sciatica is said in this image. So, when I see this, it makes me think of my mom's back injury. She has surgery too. So, but after all the surgery and all that, the injury and all that, she has sciatica running down her left leg. So she, suffered from that. And now I'm getting more information about that. Yay, learning is fun. Okay. The sacral plexus is a network of nerves formed by spinal nerves L4 through S4, located in the posterior pelvis on the piriformis muscle. The piriformis muscle, right? So it's on the posterior pelvis on the piriformis muscle. It acts as a major control center for motor and sensory function in the lower back. See what I'm saying? My mom had a back injury. And also the buttocks, genitals, posterior thighs, and most of the lower legs and feet. My sister is a CNA, and she just got two patients with, one is a quadriplegic, I think, and one is paralyzed. Wow. So we can apply this to our life. We can have words to describe the things we're seeing in our world, right? So we're all the better for it. Now we have words we can use. The sacral plexus is a network of nerves located in the posterior pelvis on the piriformis muscle. It acts as a major control center for motor and sensory function in the lower back, buttocks, genitals, posterior thighs, and most of the lower legs and feet. Very important. So this information is coded in the Bible. Ooh, I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about this stuff. So that was the last one. Let's get back to the book because I can't wait. And so he's saying that, because remember, he started out, what he was saying was this is something that H.P. Blavatsky was pointing out, right? H.P. Blavatsky writes on this thing. We have plenty of H.P. Blavatsky books too. I'm glad you guys are here. We can read them. I've never read them. I've never read them. So we can get into H.P. Blavatsky for sure. All right. So according to H.P. Blavatsky, There's a lot of 7 groups inside and outside on your body. According to the author of this book we're reading, Manly P. Hall, these 7 are the negative spinal plexuses of first importance. Negative? But disciples of the mysteries are warned not to attempt the development of these centers because they are negative poles. Wow. What do you mean? What are you saying? Those 7 that we just read about, those 7 plexuses, the spine and all that we just read, he's saying that those 7 are the negative spinal plexuses. They are the negative poles within our body. Wow. That's interesting. Tell me more. All of the real plexuses, which the true disciple of the highest knowledge should try to unfold, are located within the skull. The body is a negative of that spiritual body contained within the cranial cavity. So the brain is the positive pole in the body, or spine is the negative pole. As the body is controlled by the brain, the true adept works with the brain, avoiding the negative poles of the brain centers, which are located along the spine. Proper development of the 7 brain discs, or spiritual interpenetrating globes, results in the awakening of the spinal flowers by an indirect process. Okay. Beware of the direct process by concentrating upon or directionalizing the internal breath towards the spinal centers. Is he saying that that is the direct process? Beware of the direct process by concentrating. So the tip he gives is not the direct process. He's saying do this process instead of the direct process. Beware of the direct process by concentrating upon or directionalizing the internal breath towards the spinal centers. Madame Blavatsky might have added to her list of septenaries the 7 sacred organs about the heart and the 7 ductless glands of first importance and the 7 methods by which the body is vitalized. Okay. And the 7 sacred breaths, the 7 body systems, which include bones, nerves, arteries, muscles, and etc., and the 7 layers of the auric egg. Your aura. 7 layers of the auric egg. 7 major divisions of the embryo. The 7 senses. 5 of them are awakened, 2 of them are latent or latent, and the 7-year periods into which human life is divided. Okay, so he gave us even more 7s than she gave us. That's what's up. All of these are reminders of the fact that 7 primitive and primary spirits have become incarnated in the composite structure of man, and that the Elohim are actually within his own nature, where from their 7 thrones they are, where from their 7 thrones they are molding him, or you, or me, into a septenary creature. Okay, I got some answers. The Elohim are not gods outside of us looking down on us. He's saying these Elohims, and remember, we said that Elohim, which is the word for God in Genesis chapter 2, is actually discussing more than one God, more than one thing. And these things are androgynous, not male or female. We're not talking about hermaphrodites. We're not talking about a strange way for people that might want to fit it in. We're not talking about trannies. We're not talking about people out externally in general. We're talking about 7. He says one of these Elohim, excuse me, he says Elohim are primary, are primitive and primary spirits that have been placed or incarnated within the composite structure of humans. In our DNA, in our body, in our brain, chakras. We gonna find out, hopefully, but it's inside of us. The Elohim are inside of us. We're not talking about a male or female. It's androgynous. It's an energy. It's a spirit. What would you call that? For lack of better words, I said spirit, right? We got to find a different word to describe what we're talking about, because we're not talking about a God in the clouds looking down on us. We're not talking about anything outside of us at all. We're saying it's internal. We're saying it's androgynous. It's not male, female, it's not that. So we got to find a new word to describe this. Because he said, all of these are reminders of the fact that 7 primitive and primary spirits have become incarnated in the composite structure of man. It's part of the programming. It's part of the DNA. It's part of the, the program, the code. And that the Elohim are actually within his own nature, from wherefrom their 7 thrones, they're molding him into a septenary creature. Okay? Let's dig deeper. One of these Elohim, which corresponds to a color, a musical note, a planetary vibration, and a mystical dimension, is the key consciousness of every kingdom in nature. The Elohim also take turns in controlling the life of the human being. Wow. So, one of these Elohim, which corresponds to a color, that's vibration, a musical note, that's vibration, a planetary vibration, that's vibration, a mystical dimension, that's a vibration. We're talking about frequencies, vibrations, right? We said the assignment is to raise your vibration. Wholeness and balance. So we're definitely not talking about, we're talking about a vibration, a frequency, an ancient, primitive, primary frequency. Okay? Hmm. According to the ancient Brahmins, the lord of the human race is keyed to the musical note Fa. Wow. And its vibration runs through the minute tube in the spinal column. A main vibration coming from the creator. It's keyed to the musical note Fa. This tube is called the sushumna. The essence moving through the sushumna finally blossoms outward, forming a magnificent flower in the brain. Sounds like our Taurus field. I'm seeing a lotus flower, ancient sacred geometry. So this essence moving through this tube in the spinal cord is creating your aura, right? Is creating your Taurus field. It's electromagnetic energy. Secretly, or what's been coded, what the understanding is when we're talking about the 1,000-petal lotus, when you're talking about the lotus flower, this is what you're talking about, this electromagnetic Taurus field. The spinal cord is the central part, the axis. Come on, let's go back to the internet real quick. I just want us to pull up this Taurus field. Since that's what we're talking about, I want us to see what we're talking about. So let's pull it up real quick. Let's type in torus field. Right. See? The spine is the middle axis, that pole in the middle. And out from the top, the energy's coming out and it's going back in, being recycled from through the feet, through the bottom of the body. You know what I mean? So when it's saying the thousand-petaled lotus, you know, we can see that's it's saying that's what the lotus flower is representing. The symbol is it's a symbol. It's coded. It's a symbol. It's not a literal. Nobody's sitting on a literal lotus. What do we have? GMO lotuses? You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about? Mutated lotus flowers? No, it's a symbol. Nobody's sitting on a flower. Come on, come on. So, and we can see that flower. See, it says the flower of life towards the energy field over here. See what I'm saying? So, going back to the book and keeping this in mind, we're going to go back to the book and keeping this in mind, we see that we're talking about the torus field, right? And the spine is that pole. He's saying it's a negative pole at that. So this pole tube in the middle of your spine is called the Sahasrara. 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 And it is the thousand-petaled lotus, in the midst of which is enthroned the divine eye of the gods. In India, it's possible to secure inexpensive chromos showing a meditating yogi with these flower centers along the spine connected together by the three nagas, or serpent gods, which represent the divisions of the spinal cord, right? The cadices of Hermes, the caduceus, the medical staff with the serpents twining around the pole. This shows the two serpents round around the central staff where they vibrate as the sharp and flat notes of the central stem. We're definitely talking about the body, guys, and how energy works, right? So this isn't a mystery. It's a mystery to people that don't know, but we're not talking about mysterious sky gods, sky daddies, entities, external at all. Excuse me, I had to eat a little yogurt. So yeah, speaking of the Nagas, right? The Naga gods, or serpents, often symbolized with human heads, sometimes as cobras with 7 heads, are favorite motifs in Oriental art. In an isolated part of the jungle in Indochina stands the remains of the ancient city of Angkor, right? Angkor Wat, concerning the building of which nothing is known. Nobody knows. Although the natives maintain that its great structures were raised in a single night by the gods. These buildings contain hundreds of carvings of great serpents, most of them hooded cobras. In some cases, the bodies, being of great length, are used as railings around walls and the sides of steps. In the Indian chromos, the blossoms along the spine are often shown with varying numbers of petals. For example, the one at the base of the spine has but 4 petals. The next above it have 6. Each of these petals is inscribed with a mysterious Sanskrit character representing a letter of the ancient alphabet. The petals are believed to indicate the number of nerves branching from the plexus or ganglion. Wow. Did you notice that there were different number of petals on the Did you notice that? And so it's believed to indicate the number of nerves that come up from out that plexus. Mm. The lotus blossoms are often ornamented with the figures of the gods, for all the deities of the Brahmin pantheon are related to nerve centers in the body. Wow. And the proclivities which they demonstrate mythologically are symbolic of activities within the nature of man. Boy, boy, boy. It's right up my alley. It's right up my alley. Remember, we said with human design, I hate to keep bringing it up because we're past human design, but I do have people here that stuck around after reading the human design book. They might have not even considered all these things. So I'm glad you're still here with us. And now we know human design is made up of a synthesis of the Indian Brahmin chakra system, right? Chakras. We know we all have chakras. So for all the deities of the Brahmin pantheon, all these devas and Hindu, these gods, they're not exterior gods outside of us. He's saying they're actually related to nerve centers in the human body, and all these stories you hear about the mythologically, right? All the fables you're hearing are actually symbolic of the activities within the nature of man. Wow, these nerve centers activities within this is a medical book. Oh my God, come on. The Bible is your first doctor book. What's going on, man? Come on. We've been taking it literally. Mm. One oriental painting shows 3 sunbursts, one covering the head, in the midst of which sits Brahma with 4 heads, his body a dark, mysterious color. The second sunburst, which covers the heart, the solar plexus, and upper abdominal region, shows Vishnu sitting in the blossom of a lotus on a couch formed of the coils of the serpent of cosmic motion. Its seven-hooded head forming a canopy over the god. Over the generative system is a third sunburst, right, in the midst of which sits Shiva, his body a grayish white, and the Ganges River flowing out of the crown of his head. So now we just heard about this oriental painting from India with these Indian gods, Shiva, Vishnu, you know what I'm saying? Brahma. And he goes on to say the interpretation is this painting was the work of an Indian mystic who spent many years on the figures, subtly concealing therein great truths. The Christian legends could be related to the human body by the same method as the Oriental, for the meanings concealed in the teachings of both schools are identical. Mm, mm, mm. How you guys feeling out there? Is this a hard pill to swallow, or are you glad to hear it? Now it's making sense for you, starting to make sense. What do you think? Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about what we're reading in this video, in this book. Now he goes on to say, in Masonry, the 3 sunbursts represent the gates of the temple, at which Hiram is stuck or struck. The gates of the temple where Hiram, right, Hiram Abiff is struck, there being no gate in the north because the sun never shines from the northern angle of the heavens. The north is the symbol of the physical body. I'm moving ahead, I'm sorry. The north is the symbol of the physical because of its relation to ice, crystallized water, and to the body, crystallized spirit. In man, the light shines towards the north, but never from it, because the body has no light of its own. It shines with the reflected glory of the divine life particles concealed within the physical substances. I don't want to have to reread this again. I feel like I'm going to reread this on my own time. I don't want to keep reading it. Y'all, some of y'all got it the first time or the second time, right? Sometimes I got to slow down. You know, I got a lot of Virgo and Gemini in me, guys. A lot of Mercury. I'm processing. It's just, I want it to sink in. Let that sink in. So he says the North is the symbol of the physical body because of its relation to ice and to the body. I'm going to back up anyway. In Masonry, the 3 sunbursts represent the gates of the temple at which Hiram is struck, there being no gate in the north because the sun never shines from the northern angle of the heaven. In man, the light shines towards the north, but never from it, because the body has no light of its own. In man, the light shines towards the north, but never from the north. In man, the light shines towards the north, not from the north. It shines with the reflected glory of the divine life particles concealed within the physical substances. For this reason, the moon is accepted as the symbol of man's physical nature. Hiram, or Chiram, as he should more properly be called, inasmuch as his name consists of the letters which in Hebrew stand for fire, air, and water, right? Because when we start talking about the Elohims and being androgynous and being primitive, primitive, there's another word that was used, but being, I thought about earth, air, fire, and water, right? How much more primitive can you get? These are the building blocks of everything around us. Earth, air, fire, water. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I was thinking about the Elohim. The elements. The element or the substance behind the physical manifestation of fire, right? What was fire before it? What makes up the fire to make it physical on this plane, on this physical plane? You know what I mean? So I'm talking about the elements, and I feel the same way when I start talking about the hoodoo, because I like to just call it the hoodoo, right? My helpers. When I call it, say, my helpers, and I talked with the hoodoo today, or I talked with my helpers, had a little internal dialogue, meditated, and, I'm not talking about a deity or a human or some kind of God outside of me. I'm talking about communing with nature, communing with the elements is what I'm talking about. We're made up of the elements. So I like where this is going. Okay, so Hiram or Chiram, as he should more properly be called, inasmuch as his name consists of the letters which in Hebrew stand for fire, air, and water, represents the mysterious, fiery, airy water which must be raised through the 3 grand centers symbolized by the ladder with 3 rungs and the sunburst flowers mentioned in the description of the Indian pairing. So we're talking about like Jacob's ladder, right? Biblically speaking, Jacob's ladder, right? You want to go up Jacob's ladder? Jacob wrestled with the angel. I'm not going to let go till you give me my birthright, till you bless me. Right. We're going to fight until we get it. You're going to go up these ladders till you get it, right? And what are we getting? That energy, that fire goes up that spine, right? The mysterious oil in the lamp that pulls the elements from the ethers to continue burning without the oil being refilled, right? Come on. This is symbolism. This is great. I like treasure maps and codes and stuff like that. So this is cool. I like a good mystery, a good case that can be solved. You know what I'm saying? We could solve this mystery. This is not a mystery. You know what I mean? It just takes a change of perception, change the way you're thinking about things, right? So you're talking about going up Jacob's ladder. When you're talking about these sunburst flowers, these 3 sunburst flowers on the back of, this oriental painting, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about the nerve center. We're talking about this oil, this Kundalini rising, going up your spine, the pole. You know what I mean? This is what we're talking about. Elements, earth, air, fire, water, raising this mysterious oil up your spine through all three grand centers, through the sunburst flowers, these chakra points, if you will, these energetic centers. Okay. Um, right. It must also pass upward by means of the ladder of 7 rungs, the 7 lotus blossoms first described. These blossoms need not be considered entirely from an oriental angle. Christians could properly call them the stations of the cross, for they are sacred places where the redeeming fire stops for a moment on its way up Calvary to liberation. Wow. Come on. Christians, New Testament people, the sacred places where the redeeming fire stops for a moment on its way up Calvary to liberation, freedom, salvation. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. Let me know, please. Leave a comment. Let me know that this is doing something for you. You got it. This is like very interesting, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I could look more into this. I can dig this. Even the art, right? The religious art. Whether we talking about chakras and Brahmin, the Zoroastrian, Mithraism, probably Christianity, Islam, even the religious art is actually coded. You don't even know. And so, as he said in the last video, in section 2 of this book, part 2, he said Christianity itself is a mystery school. I realized that anyway in my personal journey, that every time I got a new understanding or something new clicked, or as my vibration rose and I got more and more conscious, I can go back and look at something I saw previously, and now it's like I'm looking at it with new eyes. I see a deeper understanding. I see more understanding than what I saw before. So, you know what I mean? This is, so you can go look at all this different art. You could read this book. You could read your Quran, your Torah, your Tanakh. You know what I mean? You can read all this stuff and you'll get allegories, symbolism, codes describing how the body works. Mystery solved. We're not talking about real people or real places. This is coded language describing how the body works and what's going on within you. Remember, in the past, the priest and the doctor, you know what I mean? The priest, what they call it, and physician were 2 in 1. So no wonder your holy book is doctor stuff and spiritual stuff. The priest and the physician were 2 in 1. So your holy books is talking about doctor stuff in terms of healing. This is your spirituality. This is your spirituality, right? This is it. The spinal column is a chain of 33 segments divided into 5 groups. The cervical or neck vertebrae, 7 in number, right? 2, the dorsal or thoracic vertebrae, of which there are 12, 1 for each rib. The lumbar vertebrae, 5 in number. The sacrum, 5 segments fused into 1 bone. And the coccyx, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Is this one of these C's is silent? Is this a K? Coccyx? I don't know. 4 segments considered as 1. The 9 segments of the sacrum and coccyx are pierced by 10 foramina, through which pass the roots of the tree of life. Oh, wow. The 9 segments of the sacrum and coccyx, or coccyx, are pierced by 10 foramina, through which pass the roots of the tree of life. 9 is the sacred number of man, and there is a great mystery concealed in the sacrum and coccyx. Okay? The part of the body from the kidneys downward was called by the early Kabbalists the land of Egypt, into which the children of Israel were taken during the captivity. Did you know that? Did you know that the part of the body from the kidneys down were called the land of Egypt? That's where the children of Israel were taken into captivity. Yeah, because you know your root chakra, your lower animalistic nature, your lower self. You gotta fight being ruled by your animal nature, right? Mind over matter. So yeah, you can't just be out here a sex addict all the time. That gets you into trouble. You can't just be on dope all the time. That gets you into trouble. You can't just be an alcoholic the whole time. That's gonna get you into trouble. All your addictions. You know what I mean? Gluttony, eating all the time. We can't live like that. All things in moderation, right? Wholeness and balance. So if you don't know how to control that much, you're in captivity. And they're saying you're in captivity in the land of Egypt. You're in captivity to your lower self, really, though. Your root chakra, your lower self, that part of you that is animalistic. We could talk about how your root chakra could be a portal connecting you to yourself on Mars or some whatever the planet is, right? Because I don't think planets are physical things, right? I've seen videos. We're looking at the planets through telescope. They look watery, like it's a dimension, not really a physical place. It's in another dimension. So you got to look through a water veil to get there. So it's not a physical place where you can go right now, but our chakras might be connected to them. Your chakra might be a portal, and at the other end of that portal is the planet where there's another you. That person that's the other you on the other side of your root chakra is animalistic. All they do is eat and have sex and do drugs and have fun. They don't have discipline. You got to learn that discipline. They're influencing you from wherever they're at. They're influencing you, right? Because you're connected to them through this portal, right? So you got to get your chakra in balance. You got to overcome that part of you. And once you do, you'll be all the better. It'll be like that two merge with you. Now you're two in one, right? And on to the next chakra, right? So I went there, right? I'm mystical. I went there. Hopefully you picked up what I put down, right? Let me know in the comment. Give me a purple heart, right? If you heard what I said and you like it, you know, if you can dig it. So yes, the part of the body from the kidneys downward, which we know is like the root chakra, was called by the early Kabbalists the land of Egypt, into which the children of Israel were taken during the captivity. Out of Egypt, Moses, the illuminated mind, as his name signifies, led the tribes of Israel, the 12 faculties, by raising the brazen serpent in the wilderness upon the symbol of the Tau cross. The Tau cross. Boy, that took me back to another time. But yes, the Tau cross. Do you know? Should we Google that? Are we? Is this a mystery to us? It's kind of it's a mystery to me. What do we mean by the Tau cross? What's that? I'm finna look it up right now. Tau cross. What's that? Oh, okay. Here's your Tau cross. It said, out of Egypt, Moses, which is actually, he's not a real person. This is the illuminated mind, right? You're starting to become conscious. You're starting to think for yourself. The illuminated mind, as his name signifies, led the tribes of Israel, which are not real people. It's the 12 faculties within your body. By raising the brazen serpent in the wilderness upon the symbol of the Tau cross. We say the serpent was a precursor to Jesus, so that's why you have your Jesus on this Tau cross, right? They could put, what's his name? Serapis. We talked about that in the last episode, how Serapis was a early archetype for Jesus. We're saying what we're talking about right now is that Jesus is not a real person. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want you to be offended by this. Maybe in a transition period, you could say, hey, they're both true. Jesus is a real person, and we're talking about, you know, how the body works. You know what I mean? You can be in a sunset or a dusk type. You're not in the Sunday. You're not in the sunlight. You're not in the dark. You're in that transition period. You're going from one to the next. You know what I mean? So you can say, hey, maybe it's both. It's a blending of both. You know what I mean? For now, it's a blending of both. It's not just about the human body. Jesus is a real person. You can do that. Hey, whatever it takes. But what we do know is we're actually also talking about the human body, right? We know that. So Serapis being a precursor to Jesus, Jesus being a precursor to Moses raising this serpent raised in the wilderness, all of that, yes, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. This is the Tau cross. I've never even heard of it or seen it. I didn't know what we were talking about. This is a Catholic thing? It's a Catholic thing. Okay, I was raised Protestant. I went to a Catholic church once or twice. The services were very fast. I feel like I was in church for less than an hour, like 45 minutes. I was like, what? We should do this all the time. I went to a Baptist church, hours in church. So I've never even heard of this Tau cross. Now we know. Learn something new every day. When was that from? The Tau cross or St. Anthony's cross is a T-shaped symbol often called the Old Testament cross, representing the Greek letter Tau or the Hebrew letter Tav. And this is what I was talking about when I said it brought back memories. Because I know about the Aleph Tav, and I got a whole book on this Tav, Aleph Tav. I got a whole book on this Aleph Tav. The Aleph Tav consists of the first Aleph and last Tav letters of the Hebrew alphabet, appearing over 7,000 times in the Tanakh or Old Testament. Often untranslated, it is viewed in some traditions as a divine symbol representing the beginning and the end, or a mark of the covenant, sometimes interpreted as a sign of the Messiah. See what I'm saying? Because, Christian speaking as a Christian, you say, these are a shadow of things to come, right? The serpent on the cross that Moses raised up, heck, even further back than that. But we're being told in Christianity that these are symbols of things to come. So you could say Serapis was a symbol of things to come, if you want to go there. Either way, Jesus was the symbol that was being waited on to come, right? So that's why sometimes it's interpreted as the sign of the Messiah, right? A lot of that talk, So we can talk all about it. I'm into it. I could talk about these things, but right now we're reading this book. But yeah, this Old Testament cross representing the Greek letter Tau or the Hebrew letter Tav, it signifies protection, salvation, and the cross of Christ. Deeply adopted by St. Francis of Assisi, it represents Franciscan spirituality, poverty, and a call to continuous spiritual renewal. I mean, what's the difference between Franciscan spirituality? What is that? Why are we, is it, do we have one religion or not? What is the difference between Franciscan spirituality and anything else? Any other forms of Catholicism? Any other forms of religion? What's the difference? And why is this the secret? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So is this also like the little cross, the Ash Wednesday cross they put on everybody's head during Ash Wednesday and all that? I don't know. I'm done researching this. Let's get back to the book. All right. Period. Thank you. We'll get this internet up out of here. And we're back. So, at the base of the spine, there is a tiny nerve center concerning which nothing is known. Allegedly. He's saying it's still a mystery. This tiny nerve center at the base of the spine. For him and them, I guess, during that time in 1924 when he wrote this book, nothing was known about that. But the occultist realizes that the symbolism of the second crucifix, which is supposed to have taken place in Egypt, has reference to the crossing of certain nerves at the base of the spine. A friend visiting Mexico was good enough to count the rattles on the tails of stone images of Quetzalcoatl, right? Or Cococan, as he is sometimes known. In nearly every case, they were 9 in numbers. See, not just your religious art, but the stone statues and arts that they had. It was symbolism too. They teaching something is more than meets the eye. There's not a giant. Come on, let's look up Quetzalcoatl. There's not a giant dragon, or giant snake. This is symbolism. Quetzalcoatl. We're gonna look it up. Let me put the internet back on. Here we go. Let's look it up, just so we're thorough and we're not wondering. So what are we talking about when we say Quetzalcoatl? The feathered serpent. It's a principal Mesoamerican deity. So like we said, there's no gods. This is talking about something going on with your organs, your body internally. But if you were to take it literally, you would think there was a feathered serpent flying in the sky in the past. It might be still alive somewhere, hiding to come out and fly again in the sky. Come on. These are fables. These are mythologies. This is not to be taken literal. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, is a principal Mesoamerican deity embodying wind, sky, and creation, particularly central to Aztec mythology as a creator of humanity and giver of agriculture. Known as a benevolent, wise god of learning and the morning star. Wow, because isn't Lucifer or Jesus somebody's a morning star? The Venus? He represents duality, connecting earth, which is the serpent, and sky, feathers. So see, you could take that literally if you want to. But then I got to ask you as a Christian. So, is Lucifer Quetzalcoatl? Is there a feathered serpent? Have you seen a snake with feathers? Is a dragon? What's going on? But, nobody ever took legends and myths seriously, like literal, right? Wasn't it always coded? When did we start acting like this was real? What I want to know. The legend of Quetzalcoatl's return became entwined with the Spanish conquest. Emperor Montezuma II initially believed that the conquistador Hernan Cortez was the returned Quetzalcoatl. I don't even know if I believe these stories. He already told us that all the ancient writings have been destroyed. This could be bullshit ass fake news coming from CNN and Fox News of their time. The colonizer. So I don't believe that shit. How about that? I don't believe it. I don't believe you. So anyway, I don't care. I don't believe that. I believe that's what the colonizer wants me to believe about that. I don't believe none of that shit. And I'm saying it right now, for the record. And fight me. Let me stop. Don't fight me. Don't come on here arguing with me, because I'm not going to argue. I'm not arguing about nothing. But these are my thoughts, and I don't believe that. And am I wrong for not believing that? You know what I'm saying? Am I wrong for not believing that? Who can believe history told by the conqueror? Like, come on, be serious. So, first of all, we need to do a little critical thinking. Who's saying what? And why should I believe them? You know what I mean? What's their motive for telling me this shit? Because they want me to take it literal, I guess. I don't know why they lying to us, you and me. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. Secretly, I have my answers, but I don't want to talk about it today. So anyway, that itself was code. It was a secret, hidden understanding behind that. Nobody then believed in this being a literal thing, and nobody now should believe that. It's what's being said. Somebody started lying, but that don't have to be our problem. The cosmic hierarchy controlling the constellation of Scorpio has control of the occult fires in the human body. I have to pull up. I posted the picture on YouTube. I'm going to call it astrological body. I posted it on YouTube. I don't know if you guys saw it though. So I'm going to show it in just a moment when I get this loaded up. We'll pull it up. Boom. Yeah, I got it. We got answers and we're going to talk about it. So let's pull this up. You see that? It said the cosmic hierarchy controlling the constellation of Scorpio has control of the occult fires in the human body. What are we talking about? You see this image that we're looking at right now? Look at that. You want me to make it bigger? I'll make it a little bigger for you. Just observe this. Look at this real quick. See it. You know? Because I was talking about Aquariuses and fat ankles. I said every Aquarius doesn't have fat ankles. I was making a joke. I said, but everybody with fat ankles is an Aquarius. No offense. Here's why I would say something like that, though. And of course, just by asking people that I saw with fat ankles, bringing it up just to test the theory. And most of them are Aquariuses. That part of the body, the ankle and calves, is ruled by Aquarius. He's saying in this book, and we see here on the image, Scorpio rules the sex organs. If you're a Scorpio, your sex organs are very important. That's the main part of the body. You know what I mean? And I read it, of course, I thought of P. Diddy, right? He's in jail for a lot of sex. You're just a freak, right? Baby oil and what have you. I don't know. We heard, we know, we saw. So, and he ain't the only Scorpio, but I just brought it up. You know what I mean? My nephew's a Taurus, and I've met plenty of Tauruses in life. So, throat, chest, constriction, asthma, bronchitis, just, that type of, that's a Taurus thing. You know what I mean? Like, Tauruses go through that. My nephew goes through that. He goes through it. And I already knew it, because before he was born, when he was born, I already knew. You're a Taurus. I already had everything together. I knew. I'm teaching him now about himself. Right? I wrote an article, 7 Herbs for Tauruses. I had him reading it this weekend. We read 3 of them. We'll read the other 4 next weekend. I want him to start learning about himself. I told him, they're not going to teach you this in school. It's my job to teach you outside of school about yourself. You need to learn about you. And we know the assignment is raise your vibration. We know we're in the age of Aquarius. We know we're into wholeness and balance, learning about the body, holistic wellness. So I feel it's important for my 10-year-old, about to be 11-year-old nephew to start learning about himself. Do you guys do that? What are your plans with this knowledge for your children, nieces and nephews, grandchildren? What's your plan? We need to be talking about that too in the Openly Occultic Book Club chat room. We need to talk about that there, Many of us are getting this information late in life. It's good that we can do something with it and try to change our lifestyle now, but it's really going to be as a role model for the kids. They need to see this in action. They need to know we're really taking this seriously. So what's your plans for the children? I myself am a Gemini, so yes, hands, arms, lungs. I know I smoke. We don't have to keep talking about it. I don't want to have to keep saying it. I know, guys. I'm doing what I can, okay? Now, but we are aware. I am aware that the lungs, as a Gemini, and it's funny because I had asthma when I was a kid back in California, but as soon as I moved here to Texas, it cleared up. Of course, there's a lot more trees and nature, right? So, but I haven't had to use an asthma inhaler since I was about in my early 20s. I'm 45 now. So, your body changes over time, but my lungs aren't so much as a problem now, particularly because I take herbs and, take harataki. I'm aware, of different things that can provoke my lungs, stress, things like that. But as the lungs started to not become a problem so much, my arms, I've had a car accident, so my arms, and that's something that comes along with Gemini. Why? Because we move fast. We're prone to accidents, cuts, and scrapes and burns because we move so damn fast, right? So I got to constantly try to practice slowing down. So yeah, the arms, and people often tell me that I have beautiful hands. So that's, and that's Gemini. You know what I mean? So when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, and I've been seeing this years ago, but I wanted to bring it up because he's touching on that right now in the book. And I posted it on the YouTube channel on posts. I hope you caught it because you can add that to your repertoire of knowledge, right? So, excuse me. Oh, I didn't mean that. It happens, it happens. So he said this cosmic hierarchy controlling the constellation of Scorpio has control of the occult fires in the human body. Isn't this very interesting? Up until now, we had a different understanding of reality. Now we know. To symbolize this, they were given the name of the serpent gods, and the priests initiated into their mystery wore the coiled serpent in the form of the uraeus upon their foreheads. You know, a little uh, cobra you see on the hats of the pharaohs and all that. That's that. So these priests also often carried flexible staffs carved in the form of a snake and from 6 to 10 feet long. The wood of which they were made were specially treated by a process that's now been lost. I listen to Brother Sanchez, so I don't know if I believe what he just said about all that. I'm going to leave it alone. But I will bring it up at a later date. During our parasite video, the wood of which they were made was specially treated by a process that's now been lost. At a certain part of the ceremonial, the priest bent the inflexible staffs into circles, placing the tail of the carved snake into its mouth, accompanying the process with secret invocations. So the Ouroboros, right? The Ouroboros. The transcendentalists of the Middle Ages did the same thing, but not with the full understanding possessed by the ancient priests, right? They didn't understand, they didn't know, but they tried to do the same thing. The lords of Scorpio, being the great initiators, accepted none into the mysteries save when the sun was in a certain degree of Taurus, symbolized by Apis, the bull. When the bull carried the sun between his horns, the neophytes were admitted. In geocentric astrology, this takes place when the sun is supposedly in the last decan of the constellation of Scorpio. This is true not only in the ancient Egyptian rituals, but it is still true in the mystery schools. Candidates for the occult path of fire are, to this day, admitted only when the sun is geocentrically in Scorpio and heliocentrically in Taurus. The star group constituting the constellation of the Scorpion closely resembles a spread eagle and is one of the reasons why that bird is sacred to Freemasonry, which is a fire cult. So, hold on. Let me see something. He said candidates for the occult path of fire are only admitted when the sun is geocentrically in Scorpio and heliocentrically in Taurus. Looking at this, we see that Taurus is at the complete opposite side of Scorpio. So that's important. You know what I mean? So we see why Taurus has anything to do with what we're talking about when we talk about Scorpio. Why are we even talking about Taurus? Well, check it out. It's the opposite. It's the complete other side. It's like a companion. The two go together. It's like they have similar energies, but manifested differently. Scorpio is a fire sign. Taurus is an earth sign. Little things that we know about it. So, like he said, this is a fire cult. Freemasonry is a fire cult, he said. And so even to this day, when it comes to who's admitted into Freemasonry or any fire cult, is what he said, this only happens when the sun is in geocentrically in Scorpio and heliocentrically in Taurus. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? And the star group constituting the constellation of the Scorpion closely resembles a spread eagle, and that's one of the reasons why that bird is sacred to Freemasonry, which is a fire cult. Okay. So when we look at the thumbnail for this book that we're reading, Melchizedek and the Mystery of Fire, we see why there's an eagle there. Right? We see why there's an eagle there. We had to look up who Manly P. Hall was to know he was a Freemasonry. He doesn't say it in the book that he's a Freemason. He didn't say he's a Freemason in the book. But now, since we looked it up, we knew he was a Freemasonry, but I guess had we known, we would have been able to tell he's a Freemason. He's bringing up Freemasonry a lot, so we would have, I don't know, we would have had to, I'm just glad we looked it up. So when you know he's a Freemason, we see he put this Freemason fire cult symbol on the cover, and we know he's a 33rd degree Scottish Freemason, and we're like, wow. You know what I mean? Wow. So what do you guys think so far? I'm looking forward to reading the comments of this video after you guys see this stuff because, you know, it's a lot, a lot being said, a lot of eye-opening things, mind-opening things, you know. So I wonder what you guys have to say about these things. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to get back into this book. We're gonna have to. I'm just letting it breathe for a minute, right? Just hey, processing all the things we just read. Very insightful, right? Very insightful. The Scorpio, the Taurus, and then right, like he was saying, this the Scorpio constellation rules the occult. What was the word he used? Occult fires. So if we're talking about the sex organs, which is a fire, when we think about the heat in lovemaking and the act of creating or bringing another person into this world, into this earth. So yeah, it's called hidden fires, okay? So, or occultic fires. Fires that you don't understand. You would need to be an initiate to understand about this, what's happening during creation. Right. There's a fire involved there. The secret fire, the energy, conception, the act of conception, right? There's a lot of talk about the act of conception, right? It's all wrapped up in the abortion talk and people who take the Bible literally, right? They say it's a sin. So there's a lot of talk, but I don't know if the talk is going deep enough because there's still a lot of confusion here. But I think, what we're doing here today is going a long way to straighten out. If just one person, it clicks for them, or, just like throwing a pebble into a lake. Little ring, you make a little disturbance and a little ring happens and it's like it goes out. The ring goes out. So, just us here reading this today is going to change the conscious collective in its own way, right? Age of Aquarius. Okay, so continuing on, it says, or Mr. Manly P. Hall says to us, although the three tubes of the spinal cord are called in the ancient wisdom the nagas, right, or whirling snakes, and the serpent which cannot die till sundown was accepted as their symbol. Serpent which can't die till sundown. Whirling snakes, nagas, codes, symbols, okay. Although the three tubes of the spinal cord are called in the ancient wisdom the nagas, or whirling snakes, and the serpent which cannot die, right, till the sundown was accepted as their symbol, the scorpion has also been used as emblematic of the spinal fire, the Kundalini. Kundalini is the spinal fire. The scorpion has also been used as emblematic of the spinal fire. This scorpion was called Judas, the betrayer, for he is a backbiter. He's a backbiter, carrying his sting in the sacrum and coccyx. Okay. We're reminded of the legend of Persephone for the castle of Klingsor, the evil magician located at the foot of the mountain in the midst of a garden of illusion, is merely a symbol of this city of Babylon and the land of darkness. Where all too often the Son of God is tempted to sacrifice his immortality. So we know this scorpion is Judas, right? The betrayer. Well, a lot of people would call their sex organs the betrayer, right? So let's start there. We're talking about code. The scorpion was called Judas. But in general, the scorpion has been used as emblematic of the spinal fire. This scorpion was called Judas the betrayer, for he is a backbiter, carrying his sting in the sacrum and coccyx. We're reminded of the legend of Percival for the castle of Klingsor, the evil magician, located at the foot of the mountain in the midst of a garden of illusion, is merely a symbol of this city of Babylon and the land of darkness, where all too often the Son of God is tempted to sacrifice his immortality. That's a legend, but it's not to be taken literal. Okay? So we need to stop taking legends and myths literal. Here also is the scene which Goethe called Walpurgis Night. It is here also that the false light is chained for 8,000 years, as related by Milton in Paradise Lost. What's this false light chained for 1,000 years? In the book of Revelation, that great devil called Satan being loosed from that pit. And chained in the pit too, and then loosed from the pit, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. Concerning the descent of the spirit of fire down the spine into the place of darkness, Milton says, him the almighty power hurled headlong, flaming down the ethereal sky with hideous ruin and combustion, down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire. And it's talking about the fire going down the spine into the place of darkness, right? Jesus, right? We know Jesus descended down into hell, to rise back up again and take his place on the throne, right side of God, back in heaven. So we're actually talking about the descent of the spirit of fire, or the Kundalini fire, the plasma, the electromagnetic system going down our spine. Because plasma, right, that's electromagnetic, right? When we talk about plasma being in our body, like blood is in our body, plasma is too. But plasma's not blood. That's electricity, right? Is that fire going through us? This sacred fire? Somebody talk to me about plasma in the comic section. Let me know what's going on here with the plasma that they have. They have plasma places in all the hoods around America. What exactly are they paying people for that they're extracting from their bodies? We're talking about the descent of the spirit of fire, this sacred fire that's going down the spine into the place of darkness. We're also talking about how the Bible shouldn't be taken literally, because you could literally think that there was a human being named Jesus Christ who died, went down into hell, preached to the sinners in hell, and rose up out of hell, showing everybody that he breaks the chains of death, and then goes back up to sit in heaven at the right side of God. You could believe that literally happened, or you can say, hey, this is coded language talking about the Bible and the sacred fire, because we do have electricity and some kind of mysterious thing going on with our body. What is conception? There's a light that just turns on all of a sudden in the egg of a woman. There's this light all of a sudden, and they're like, this is when conception takes place. This is when the baby is born. This is when life, you know? And what's that? What's that? What's conception? How's that happen? What happened before that? What happens when we die? All that's wrapped up in this, right? So religion was given to us to deal with the question of what happens after we die, right? But that's some people's views on what happens after we die. So what's up with other people's views on what happens after we die, and what happens before we're born, and this whole conception thing, this occultic fire in the Scorpio that's being ruled, ruling the sex organs of people, and the Scorpio, being ruled by Scorpio. What's going on? It's a lot of things being said, but do we have clarity? Do we understand what's being said? Can we form the next question that we might have? Because, we're kind of breaking down strongholds, vain imaginations, and lies. If taking these religious books literal was the vain imagination of egotistic men, then we're tearing down vain imaginations in this process within ourselves. We got to get rid of the lies out of our body before we can build up truth. You know what I mean? It's part of a process. So if you're in the midst of that process, thank you for being here. If you understand that it's a process and you can identify that as being something going on in your life, thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here with us. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, you know what I mean? So you don't miss any new episodes. Share it out with other people that might be just like you. They might be waiting to hear something just like this. They will have to hear it from you, through you, so because this kind of changes everything, does it not? This changes everything. So, because like we said, it's part of the myth of Jesus Christ is him going down after death to hell, preaching to the sinners in hell, and then rising back up again to be sitting at the right hand of God. So, concerning the descent of the spirit of fire down the spine into the place of darkness, Milton says, him, the almighty power, hurled headlong flaming from the ethereal sky, just throw it out of heaven, headlong, or, flaming down the ethereal sky, with hideous ruin and combustion, there's fire there, down to the bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire. Well, that's the devil. but Jesus too went down to hell. So you see what I'm saying? But Jesus was called the, morning star. Lucifer, Satan was called the Venus, the bright morning star. So, there's duality in all things. You could technically say Jesus and the devil, or Jesus and Lucifer are the same thing, because it's really a duality of this and that, of the energy we're talking about, a polarity. We'll get back to that. It's also from here that the hordes of scorpions arose, spreading blight and destruction to all the earth, as is related in the book of Revelation, right? The locusts, the frogs, all those different plagues, the hordes of scorpions. Here also is the rock Moriah, over the brow of which Hiram is buried. Here lurks Typhon, the destroyer, and Satan, who was stoned. This is the dwelling place of the false light, to differentiate it from the true light, which shines out through the regions of Shemayim above. Between these two lies the length of the spinal cord, a rope connecting the ark and the anchor. So, if Jesus and Satan are polarities of the same thing, the question is, well, what is the same thing? The light. Jesus is representing the true light, which is, sometimes it's called Christ consciousness, the fluid going back up the spine, back up to the brain, resulting in Christ consciousness, which is heaven. You know what I mean? Which is high vibrations. Lucifer, Satan would be describing the low vibrations, your lower self, the anchor, you're tied to it until you're set free, right? So we're not talking about a literal man, Jesus, walking on water, defeating death. We're not talking about a literal monster hiding and lurking everywhere trying to tempt you. But there is something that's trying to tempt you, is your lower self. That Judas in you, right? That's trying to tempt you. That's trying to tempt you to stay anchored to your lower self. And then you have a Jesus in you that's trying to rise up, wants high vibrational things, reaching towards heaven. You see what I'm saying? Wants to be set free from that chain of the lower vibrations, right? Hey, you know? There's a legend among the Orientals to the effect that Kundalini, boom, 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 pew, 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 pew. We finally saw the word. He finally said the word in his book, page 45. I knew it. We was talking about it the whole time. I said it. And so that's what this serpent is on this pendant on my necklace. Okay, you can get this pendant at cedargroveherbs.com. And the pendant, the serpent, merely is representing the Kundalini energy. It's talking about that sacred fire that goes up and down from your spine. So we're actually talking about, we're actually talking about the Kundalini, the sacred fire, Jesus and Satan being polarities of this energy, this secret, sacred energy within our bodies, all of us, going up and down the spine. The goddess of the serpentine spinal fire, growing tired of heaven, decided to visit the new earth, which was being formed in the sea of space. She therefore climbed down a rope ladder, the umbilical cord from heaven, and found an island, the fetus, in the Sea of Meru, the amniotic fluids, surrounded by the mountains of eternity, the Turin, all of which existed within the egg of Brahma, the womb of Matripadma. After exploring the island, Kundalini decided to return up the ladder once more. But as she was about to ascend, the ladder was cut from above, the umbilical cord, which was severed at birth, and the island drifted off into space. What island? The Sea of Meru, the amniotic fluids, the fetus? The island was the fetus. The fetus, okay, floated away, drifted off into space. In fear, Kundalini ran and hid herself in a cave, the sacral plexus, where, according to a certain of the Eastern teachings, she remains coiled like the cobra in the snake charmer's basket, from which she can be lured only by the three mysterious notes of the charmer's flute. Mm. This is cool, y'all, because we heard about Kundalini. Have you ever heard the Kundalini legend? Have you ever heard of the Kundalini legend among the Orientals? Man, we've been hearing all about Kundalini. This is the legend. Okay, so when Kundalini begins to unwind, she ascends as a serpentine stream of fire through the spinal canal and into the brain, where she stimulates the activity of the pituitary body. Do you know how the body works to sit here and go against this? Do you know what happens when the Kundalini fire goes up the spinal cord and then into the brain and stimulates the activity of the pituitary? Do you know? Because if you don't know, then you're just like us. We're learning, right? The spine may be divided horizontally into three sections. The lowest section includes the lumbar vertebrae, together with the segments forming the sacrum and coccyx, and is surrounded by a brick red haze of a lurid and angry color. This haze is oily in texture and causes the sacrum and coccyx to appear the color of dried blood. The color, however, is living rather than dead. Higher up towards the lumbar vertebrae, the color is somewhat lighter and not so angry looking. It gradually turns to orange, and through the section composed of the 12 dorsal vertebrae, there is a golden glow radiating outward from a thread-like line of what appears to be a river of yellow fire. So, we're talking about these chakras, right? Let's pull up the chakras. We said that the bottom is red, then it's a dark, angry red, right? And then you go up and it starts to turn to orangish color, not so angry looking, right? And then after that, the yellow, like a pier of yellow fire. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. Let's look at the chakras. I said it's the Hindu Brahmin chakra system. If you want the technical term for chakras, the Hindu chakra system, rooted in ancient Vedic and Tantric traditions, consists of 7 main energy centers or wheels, right? Spiral energetic circles, spirals, portals, what I say, along the spine, from the base to the crown of the head. These centers, and these are the Indian names for these 7 chakras, right? Well, we could go to this image that you can see the colors right now, looking at this image to our right. But we can click here and we'll get, what we call it, in America, with our English language, not the Indian language, the Indian names for it. So at the bottom you have the root chakra, that angry red, the root chakra. Then you have your sacral chakra, less angry looking, a little orangey. Then you have this yellow solar plexus chakra. You know what I mean? Looking like a river of yellow fire. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about the chakras. Facts. Up the spine. You see the spine points here in the picture. It's the spine. It's the spine. We're talking about the spine, guys. Right? Here we have it in the middle, the North Pole, if you will, of a human body. You know what I mean? So that's what we're discussing. So After this river of yellow fire, these colors extend somewhat outward along the nerves, which branch off from the spine between the vertebrae. That yellow, that river of yellow fire. A little higher, the yellow becomes flecked with green, and through the cervical section, the stream becomes faintly electric blue. Mm-hmm. Remember. So here we go. Look at it again. After that yellow, green, blue, purple. It should be white. You know, it's white at the top, right? The crown chakra, if you will. So back to what it's saying. That yellow, with those, that yellow, and you know, like you said, under that yellow is the orange and the red. But once you get to that yellow, these colors extend somewhat outward along the nerves, which branch off from the spine between the vertebrae. And remember, we're up kind of like in the chest area, heart area. So, you know, you have your arms. The nerve centers go through your arms. You know what I mean? Up to your neck, through your arms, down the rest of your spine. You know what I mean? So, um, the little higher, a little higher, the yellow becomes flecked with green, and through the cervical section, the stream becomes faintly electric blue. Through the Ida and Pingala, two lateral tubes through the spinal cord, paralleling the central tube on either side, this stream of fire goes up and down incessantly. The further up the fire goes, the thinner and less brilliant its hues, but the purer and more beautiful the colors, until finally they meet in a seething, molten mass in the pons of the medulla oblongata, where the fire begins almost immediately to permeate the third ventricle and agitate the pituitary body. The pituitary body, the second time he said that. What is the pituitary body? What is the pituitary body? When he's saying pituitary body. The pituitary body or pituitary gland, so he's just talking about the pituitary gland, is a pea-sized master gland at the base of the brain, housed in the sella turcica. It regulates essential bodily functions, growth, metabolism, reproduction, and stress by releasing hormones that control other glands. Okay? So glad we mapped that out, right? Thank you for your service in mapping that out. But as we said, you know, we're talking about this fire going up and down the spine. Electrical, sacred fire. This is energy. Okay? Energy. it's this is what makes us alive. This is what animates us. Hmm. This tiny form is described by Santee as follows. The hypophysis, pituitary body, is composed of two lobes bound together by a connective tissue. A sheet of dural matter, diaphragma cilia, holds them in the hypophyseal fossa. The anterior lobe, the larger, is derived from the epithelium of the mouth cavity and in structure resembles the thyroid gland. Its closed vesicles, lined with columnar epithelium, in part ciliated, contains a viscid jelly-like material, pituita, which suggests the old name for the body, that pituitary gland. The anterior lobe is hollowed out on its posterior surface, which is kidney-shaped, and receives the posterior lobe, the infundibulum, into the concavity. The hypophysis has an internal, I mean, I don't even know why they needed to name these words so hard. So that's part of the deception too, a part of the occultic part of it. You know what I mean? They want to keep it hidden, so the shit is hard to read, to say. You know what I mean? Like, why we can't have better names for these things? Let's make up better names for these things, because we going off the colonizer's name for these things, I think, and it's just very, very hard. And it is. I don't think it has to be that hard, you know. So, are people with the gift of making up words? Let's make up some new words to describe these things, okay? Because this is just a mouthful, a tongue twister, you know. Damn, the infundibulum, the infundibulum. You know what I mean? Like, come on, what are we talking about? Into the concavity, the hypophysis has an internal secretion which appears to stimulate the growth of connective tissues and to be essential to sexual development. Okay? The pituitary body is the negative pole, first of all. Yet it plays many roles in the development of the spiritual consciousness. In one sense of the word, it is the initiator, for it raises the candidate, being the pineal gland. It raises the pineal gland. The initiator. Okay. Being of feminine polarity, the pituitary body lives up to its dignity by being the eternal temptress. In the Egyptian myths, Isis, who partakes of the nature of the pituitary body, conjures Ra, the supreme deity of the sun, who is here symbolic of the pineal gland, right? So all that is myths and is not to be taken literally. There is no real Isis, Ra, or any of that. These are coded words. Ra is code for pineal gland. Isis is code for pituitary body. In the Egyptian myths, Isis, who partakes of the nature of the pituitary body, conjures Ra, the supreme deity of the sun, who is here symbolic of the pineal gland. Why is the pineal gland symbolic of the sun? When that light goes in during conception, when you're conceived in the womb, that light going on is your soul coming into your body, and it sits in the pineal gland. To disclose his sacred name, which he finally does. So Ra, the supreme deity of the sun, who's here, symbolic of the pineal gland. Isis conjured him to disclose his sacred name, which he finally does. So the secret's out. The physiologic process by means of which this is accomplished is worthy of detailed consideration. Okay, so let's hear more then. The pituitary body begins to glow very faintly, and little rippling rings of light pour out from around the gland and gradually fade out a short distance from the pituitary body. As occult growth continues, hidden growth, we're talking about you being in the womb. I'm sure of it, right? We're talking about you being in the womb. So as hidden growth continues, according to the proper understanding of the law of occultism, the emanating rings around the gland grow stronger. They are not equally distributed around the pituitary body. The circles are elongated on the side facing the third ventricle and reach out in graceful parabolas towards the pineal gland. I remember it saying earlier something about it being kidney shaped. So it's not going to be equally distributed. This frequency, these rings, is not going to be equally distributed around the pituitary body because it's a kidney shape, like a kidney bean. The circles are elongated on the side facing the third ventricle and reach out in graceful parabolas towards the pineal gland. Gradually, as the stream becomes more powerful, they approach closer to the slumbering eye of Shiva, tinting the form of the pineal gland with golden orange light and gently coaxing it into animation, waking it up. Interesting. Under the benign, so the pituitary is the initiator. The pineal gland is being coaxed to wake up, come to life. Under the benign warmth and radiance of the pituitary fire, the initiator, the divine egg thrills and moves, and the magnificent mystery of occult unfoldment or your birth takes place. Wow. Okay. The pineal gland is thus described by Santee. Pineal body, corpus pineale, is a cone-shaped body, 6 millimeters, 0.25 inches high, and 4 millimeters, 0.17 inches in diameter, joined to the roof of the third ventricle by a flattened stalk, the habenula. It is also called the epiphysis. Epiphany? Epiphysis? Come on. The pineal body is situated in the floor of the transverse fissure of the cerebrum, the brain, directly below the splenium of the corpus callosum, and rests between the superior colliculi of the quadrigeminal bodies on the posterior surface of the midbrain. So see, they really don't want you to know this. That's why these hard words are so hard. Please, somebody, put out the call. We need other words, easier to understand words, easier to say words to understand these important processes of the body. So somebody with an artful gift of creating words, they have a great creative imagination. They can help us bridge this gap. We need better words. This is too much. So it makes you just want to put it down. I don't know what we're talking about. I can't read that. So it is closely invested by pia mater, right? The habenula splits into a dorsal and ventral lamina, which are separated by the pineal recess. The ventral lamina fuses with the posterior commissure, but the dorsal stretches forward over the commissure in continuity with the roof epithelium. The border of the dorsal lamina is thickened along the line of attachment to the thalamus and forms the stria medullaris thalami, or pineal stria. The thickening is due to the presence of bundle of fibers from the columna of the fornix and the intermediate stria of the olfactory tract. Between the medullary stria at the posterior end, there is a transverse band, the commissura habenularum, through which the fibers of the stria partially decussate to the nebulous habenulate in the thalamus. You know what I'm saying? Come on. We need if we could just have a animation. If we have any animators out there who can make a cartoon out of this, a little 30-second, however long, I'll do the voiceover reading this shit because this is hard to read. Or we get AI to read it. You know, put the AI to good use. You know what I mean? Lessen our load. I don't know. We need to be able to read this paragraph and have a visual explaining what the hell he just said. Because we don't know what we're talking about. Help us learn the body better, and we need somebody to make a video describing everything that just was said here, and then we can see it happening or see what we're talking about in animated form, hopefully with these new words. You know what I'm saying? Let's make it our own. Let's let this be the premiere of our new language. Our new code words. Because what? Ugh, we don't even understand what we're reading, but we know we're talking about something. Let that be good enough. The interior of the pineal body is made up of closed follicles surrounded by ingrowths of connective tissue. The follicles are filled with epithelial cells mixed with calcareous matter, the brain sand, which is also called acervulus cerebri, right? And then the calcareous deposits are also found on the pineal stalk and along the choroid plexuses. So, the function of the pineal body is unknown. quote, the function of the pineal body is unknown. Descartes facetiously suggested that it is the abode of the spirit, the sand of man. In reptiles, there are two pineal bodies, an anterior and a posterior, of which the posterior remains undeveloped. But the anterior forms a rudimentary cyclopean eye. In the Hateria, a New Zealand lizard, it projects through the parietal foramen and presents an imperfect lens and retina, and in its long stalk, nerve fibers. The human pineal body is probably homologous with the posterior pineal body of reptiles. Why he say probably? You don't know? They didn't know in 1924? Hmm. You would think they know in 1924 still. All the Tuskegee experiments and all the medical apartheid. Girl. The pineal gland is a link between the consciousness of man and the invisible worlds of nature. Whenever the arc of the pituitary body contacts this gland, there are flashes of temporary clairvoyance. Let's back up and say this again, guys. Okay. The pineal gland is a link between the consciousness of man and the invisible worlds of nature. Whenever the arc of the pituitary body contacts this gland, there are flashes of temporary clairvoyance. But the process of making these two work together consistently is one requiring not only years, but lives of consecration and special physiological and biological training. So now you can't get it in one lifetime. Interesting. The third eye is the cyclopean eye of the ancients, for it was an organ of conscious vision long before the physical eyes were formed, although vision was a sense of cognition rather than sight in those ancient days. He kind of flip-flopped between it being literal and not literal, didn't he? I mean, like, on one hand, there was people with one eye walking around before people started having two eyes. And then on the other hand, it's actually, it's just a symbol for the invisible or the internal pineal gland, right? Yeah. What are we talking about? See? But he a Freemason. He a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. That's why I keep bringing it up. We can't trust them. We'll take what we can and we'll take it from there, because we can't put 100% trust in a secret society, can we? And what's the secret? What's up? Okay. As man's contact with the physical world grew more complete, he lost his inner understanding together with the conscious connection with the creative hierarchies. What creative hierarchies? It's like the primal, right? The primal energies that were first created. I don't know, elements, something, you know what I mean? The creative hierarchies. Conscious connection. The sacral center is the center for creativity, right? That's the orange center right above your root center, right above your root chakra, the bottom chakra. So the orange sacral chakra is known to be the center for creativity. So basically, I'm going to read it again. As man's contact with the physical world grew more complete, he lost his inner understanding. Physical world, I'll say colonized world. As man's contact with the colonized world grew more complete, he lost his inner understanding together with the conscious connection with his sacral chakras and the energies or hierarchies contained within. Does that sound about right? Does that sound about right? Come on. In order to regain this connection, it's necessary for him to rise above the limitations of your colonized world. All right? Get out of the Western educational systems start to incorporate this understanding that the Western side of the world act like they don't want to talk about unless they can say you heard it here first, and you didn't hear it. Well, you heard it here first, but not from the colonizer, not from the pilgrims, But they don't never want to give the indigenous credit, do they? They don't never want to give the indigenous credit. So no, they don't want to talk about it until they can repackage it in their own words and trademark it, copyright it, and pretend that it came from them. So that's what we're dealing with. Get up out of this colonized mindset, rise above the limitations of it, because that colonized mindset is indeed a limitation. It'll have you going to the doctor over and over. You'll never get healed. You'll never get a cure. You're just paying all the medical bills until you die. And if you owe anything, they'll take all that from whoever, you have to pay all that off. So you'll just die in debt with all kind of medical bills and no healing. It's a trap. It's limitations there. You want to rise out of that into holistic healing, right? Facts. Knowledge about your body, knowledge about how energy works, knowledge about the different tools you can use, right? To be the alchemist that you need to be, to go ahead and work with these elements now that you have the knowledge of them. You know what I mean? So that's what we're talking about. He must not, however, sever his connection with humanity by becoming a recluse or an impractical dreamer. The occultist must not walk out of anything. He must work out of everything. In the pineal gland, there is a tiny grit or sand concerning which modern science knows practically nothing. Again, he wrote this in 1924. What do we know now in 2026? March 30th, 2026. What do we know now? Today. Investigations have shown that this grit is absent in idiots and others lacking properly organized mentality. I don't know. It sounds a little Darwin, evolution, and all that. What's it called? The little racist ethnogenesis, not ethnogenesis, eugenics. Sounds a little eugenic to me. He said, idiots don't have the sand in their pineal gland, and others that are a little long or a little messed up mentally ill people, they also don't have the gland in the pineal gland. Somebody confirm that for me. Occultists know that this grit is the key to the spiritual consciousness of man. It serves as a connecting link between consciousness and form. And while you're looking that up, whether or not they don't, if they know anything about this sand now in 2026, and whether or not it's true that the sand is not there in the idiots and other people that are mentally ill, we also need to know, who is he talking about? Who is not, what is the, we want to know what people don't have this sand as well. You know what I mean? That there's a large percentage of a certain group of people that don't have it. We want to know that too. Come on, bring some facts. Bring some receipts to the chat room, please. Talk to us, show us. Let's get some more information on that. The foregoing will give brief understanding of part of the mystery of man's occult anatomy. Those with discerning eyes will see in the spinal canal leading upward into ventricles of the brain, through certain doors concerning which science is ignorant, the passageways and chambers of the ancient mysteries. They'll realize that the spinal spirit fire is the candidate who's being initiated. In the triangular room of the third ventricle, the master mason's degree is given. So, the architecture and the way the building, the masons' temples and all that are laid out. He said at the beginning of the book, you wouldn't even know it, until you start getting initiated, but you're already in something that's revealing the mysteries, and it's the room itself. It's a code, or it's symbolism to something, to the way the body works. You know what I mean? So here he's saying in the room that the master mason's degree is given, that room is called the triangular room, and it's the room of the third ventricle. It's a secret of the body. right there. You wouldn't know it, you know. Here, the candidate is buried in the coffin, and here, like after 3 days, he rises from the dead, right? Jesus, Easter's coming up. You know what I mean? So, what are we talking about? Here, the candidate is buried in the coffin, they're dead. And here, after 3 days, right? The Bible says 3 days and 3 nights. Here, after 3 days, he rises from the dead. Who rises from the dead? Is there zombies walking around? Who's rising from the dead? What are we talking about? The lower degrees of the ancient mysteries led through tortuous passageways where howling and crying rent the air, and the flames of the inferno flickered through the darkness. The neophyte, seeking for light, was first led through the underworld, where he fought strange beasts and heard the wailing of lost souls. All of this was emblematic of man's own lower nature, through which his spiritual ideals must rise to illumination and truth, right? The higher degrees of the mysteries took place in beautiful domed buildings where white-robed priests chanted and sang, and lights from invisible lamps shone on golden jewels. The greater mysteries represented the felicity of the soul surrounded by light and truth. They symbolized that man had raised himself from the darkness of ignorance into the light of philosophy. Plato said that the body is the sarcophagus of the soul, for he realized that within the form was an immortal principle which could free itself from mortal sheath only by death or by initiation. By the ancients, these two were considered almost synonymous, death and initiation. For that reason, the dying Socrates ordered his disciples to make an offering at the time of his death, similar to the one which candidates made when about to be initiated into the Eleusinian mysteries, right? The Eleusinian mysteries. So, I'm still concerned that there's a third ununderstood or a shadow of things to come understanding that is still being perpetuated by Freemasons. A third thing that's in between the lines here, or what have you. Death, you only can free yourself by death, right? Your spirit can leave this body by death or by initiation, he says. What initiation? That's one. But could there be more than one initiation? One initiation, which would be like, learning, I guess, or even using tools created to help with your electromagnetic energy and astral traveling to other places to meet yourselves in these other places and deal with conquering, that chakra, if you will. Something that can make this process faster. But also, like I said, and we're going to talk about in the parasite video, especially the one when we talk about digital parasites, there is brain-computer interface chips. They're not coming, they're here. Brain-computer chips are here. And they're talking about being able to upload consciousness to a computer, to the cloud. So, doing that, you conquer death in so many ways, right? Because your consciousness is like, if it's uploaded to the cloud, it's like out of the body. I don't know. Maybe like a transition period before you're out of this body and go into like a metaverse, a computer, a new simulation. So first the brain computer chips, and you can have that as a human. You'd be a transhuman. But all that a forewarning or a foreshadowing of the next step, which would be for you to ditch your human body, just be a consciousness in this metaverse or digital simulation. You know what I mean? You don't have a body because you transfer your consciousness out of your body into, you hear me? I wonder. That's what Bro Sanchez is talking about. And so I wonder, do you wonder? Because I don't know why they even talking about things like that anyway. But in the midst of that, you're dealing with a Jesus type scenario. Jesus healed the blind, Jesus raised the dead. You know what I mean? All that could come to pass with AI and brain computer chips and consciousness being uploaded to computers, to clouds. You know, let's talk more about that in part 3 of the Parasite series I'm doing. I haven't even done part 2 yet, but it's a 3-part series. It's parasites, physical, metaphysical, and digital. So we're going to talk about all that in the digital part of the parasites video. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, so you don't miss that video because it's coming up the next few weeks, months or so. I got to get on it. Anywho, it says the mystery of the all-seeing eye was sometimes symbolized by the peacock because this bird has eyes in all of its feathers. In honor of the sacred eye in the crown of the head, remember the electromagnetic torus field around the body, the spinal cord being that pole in the middle, and then the opening at the top for the head. If you were looking down at that in a bird's eye view, it looked like the lotus flower. It looked like an eye in the middle, the all-seeing eye in the middle, and then, lotus flowers, like a lotus flower, petals of a flower. So these are symbols. The peacock, the lotus flower, all are symbols of this electromagnetic torus field around you. Okay? Including the all-seeing eye being the circle at the top. If you're looking down at this electromagnetic field, there's a hole in the middle, right? Right above the head. So there's a circle there in all-seeing eye. That's what the all-seeing eye represents. These are all symbols about the same thing. And so the peacock, the all-seeing eye, is sometimes symbolized by the peacock because this bird had eyes in all of its feathers. In honor of the sacred eye in the crown of the head, the monks of all nations shave their head over the place which it's supposed to look out. So now you know why the monks shave their heads. Small children who have but recently completed their embryonic recapitulation of humanity's early struggle for life have an unduly sensitive area about the crown of the head. The skull does not close there immediately. In some cases, it never closes, although usually the sutures unite between the 2nd and 5th years. Good stuff. We getting it? We getting what's being said here? We're talking about the body, the chakras, electromagnetic energy, this sacred fire, this torus field that's created around you and me. The chakras that both you and me have, these energy centers that connect you to somewhere. They're energy centers. You're influenced, astrologically speaking, you're influenced by the planets. What's on the planets that's influencing you? How are you connected to the planets? Through your chakra points. So, the extreme sensitiveness over the area of the third eye is accompanied by a certain clairvoyance. The small child is still living largely in the invisible worlds. While its physical organism is unresponsive, it is conscious and active, at least to a limited degree, right? In the womb, in those worlds with which it is connected by the open gateway of the pineal gland. See? So, you're connected to other places through some of these organs, these things in your body. So let that be known. Let it not be a mystery. Definitely your chakra points. He's saying your pineal gland as well. You're connected to somewhere else through your pineal gland. Isn't that amazing? Gradually, certain manifestations of his higher consciousness, this baby in the womb, enter into its physical organism and crystallize into the fine grit found in that gland, the pineal gland. There is no grit in the pineal gland until consciousness enters. So he's saying not all walking, talking people have this in their head. But I'm like, could that be because they got a damn computer chip in their brain? How far back does this go? Not only are the two glands in the head tremendously important, but the whole glandular system, especially the ductless glandular system, exercises tremendous sway over the human system. Okay? The white blood corpuscles are not only manufactured in either the pancreas or the spleen, but are really formed by activity of the etheric double, which is connected to the physical form through the spleen. Okay. The white blood corpuscles. A continuous stream of partly etheric white blood corpuscles pours from the invisible world into the visible organism through the gateway of the spleen. My human design people, the spleen center, different gates in the spleen center. Yes. The same is true of the liver, and that would probably be the solar plexus center, because the solar plexus is sitting right above the liver. It's processing emotional waves. The liver is processing information, food, and that solar plexus is the ethereal one, right? Processing the ethereal energy. So your feelings, your emotions. Okay. We need detox. Let's get some dandelion and burdock going. Burdock root. Let's detox. Let's get our liver working. Let's work with our liver because it has a job, right? So the same is true of the liver, for the red blood corpuscles are to a certain degree a crystallization of astral forces, for the liver is the portal leading into the astral body. Okay? Hmm. I know we're in 2026, and he was in 1924 saying that over 100 years ago. So let's get the updated information one day, you guys. We got a good starting point here, though. We're starting somewhere good. Now we have somewhere to start. You know what I mean? We can build from here. So we'll get the updated language, and if we have to write the new books, like we said, we'll make up the new words and write the new books. We'll do that too. It's a process, but we got to get information. We got to do this work as quick as possible, right? As easy and quick as possible. So, yeah. The 7 major ductless glands are under the control of the 7 planets, and each one of them is actually a 7-fold body in the same way that all the vital organs are 7-fold. So all these things are 7-fold because there's a you on each 7 of the planets. You're connected to them. Is my theory still sounding legit? Is it still standing? Okay. The heart is divided into 7 complete organs by a certain process of occult anatomy or hidden anatomy, as is also the brain. The fact that the human brain closely resembles, in certain details, especially the organs grouped around the base of it, an androgynous human embryo, is sufficient to cause further investigation. Okay? Sometimes physicians will realize that the knowledge of the organs and functions of the human body is the most important and complete method of understanding the religions of all the world. Wow. It took my breath away. He says sometimes physicians will realize that the knowledge of the organs and functions of the human body is the most important and complete method of understanding the religions of all the world. For all religions, even the most primitive, are based on the functions of the human form. It was not without reason that the ancient priests placed over the temple gate the immortal motto, know thyself. Man, know thyself. Wow. Hmm. Interesting. And we were talking about Anchor Watts. Before I forget, we were talking about Anchor Watts earlier and the temples there. And I got a video by Eugene Adams, a classic video that we all should know about. It's talking about reincarnation, the temple, Anchor Wat, and things that were in the temple. So I'll add that to the description. I'll put the link of that video um, by Dr. Eugene Adams in the description. So Manly P. Hall founded the Philosophical Research Society, Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization, and he did that in 1934. And it dedicated it to the dissemination of useful knowledge in the fields of philosophy, comparative religion, and psychology. In his long career, spanning more than 70 years of dynamic public activity, Mr. Hall delivered over 8,000 lectures in the United States and abroad, authored over 150 books and essays, and wrote countless magazine articles. And this foundation, this PRS foundation, is still going. You can go to the website. You want to go to the website? We can go to the website. Yeah, this was an interesting read and a lot to chew on. I'm here just thinking to myself, we got a lot. I could think about that for quite a while. Mull it over, meditate on it, and figure out the words to research and go further, enhance that study of that information. You know, figure out the next questions that I'd have. You know what I mean? So, prs.org, the Philosophical Research Society, you know, still in effect, still doing their thing. Manly P. Hall. Yep, you see it. That's him. He made up. He created this. He founded. Haha. Maybe he found it. Let me stop. He said it's all from the indigenous. He found the indigenous writings and things and understanding. Let me stop. He founded the Philosophical Research Society in 1934 and was its first president, remaining so until his death in 1990. Okay, so now you know. They got events coming up. Let me know if you get into one of these events. Let us know in the book club chat room. Okay? Let us know how it is, okay? So, that's what we talked about today. What am I doing? Everything but what I'm trying to do. That's what we talked about today. What do you guys think? That was a lot. Changed a lot of our, just put something on our minds, you know? For sure. It put something on our minds. That was a great book. I think that was an excellent book for us to talk about in our second season of the Openly Occultic Book Club. You know what I mean? Excellent, excellent, excellent book. We were able to see even more, even what human design is talking about. So we were able to piggyback off the last writing. You know, this Openly Occultic Book Club is about energy work. Everything we read, everything we're learning is about energy work. You know, so that's why I say I'll be even being called a witch, a pagan. We're talking about people who knew about energy work. So you call me a witch, a pagan. You're saying I'm an indigenous or have knowledge of indigenous energy work practices. Come on, you know what I mean? So don't call me a Christian. You can call me a Gnostic, a Gnostic person, but don't call me a Christian. Christians are taking these things literal, and I'm not, you know, I'm past all that literal interpretation of myths and legends and stuff like that. Like I said, when did we ever take that seriously? You know what I mean? Greek myths, the gods throwing thunderbolts. Who took that seriously? You know. So it's definitely something else being said, is hidden, and come to find out, and I'm in complete agreement. I saw the evidence. I'm looking forward to seeing more evidence of the same. Yeah, I can see that it's about the body, the human body, the way the body works, energy works within the human body, you know. So I had a good time. I had a really, really good time. Thank you guys so much for being here with me during the process, right? Hopefully, we all had a good time. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you sometime soon. We'll come back with a new book. It's still going to be about energy work, learning about energy. But and I don't think it's going to be about astrology. Might have something to do with plants or something like that. We could talk about some plants. So I think that's what we'll do. It'll be a book about plants and astrology. How about that? So we'll do that. But we got all kind of books. Books on numerology. Books on, like we said, the Indian divas and deities. We got H.P. Blavatsky books, just all kind of books on the occult. So we will dive into them one at a time. As long as you want to come and join me, we'll keep on reading. You know. So I hope you guys have a great day, the next few days, and we'll be back soon. But I think what I'm gonna do next is going to get back to the parasite videos, the Openly Occultic Podcast, episode 2 on parasites. So be looking out for that, right? And of course, we've been doing the Zodiac Herbal series, right? So I'll probably release 7 herbs for Geminis coming up next. We already did 7 herbs for Pisces, 7 herbs for Aries, 7 herbs for Taurus. You can watch the video here on the YouTube channel. You can go to cedargroveherbs.com and read the articles. The articles are more in depth, right, than the videos. The videos are just short, quick videos just to get the information to you quick. But in all actuality, the articles on the website go way more in depth. So, and give you tips on how to use these two teas, how to incorporate them into your life, how to prepare them, and all that good stuff, right? Why these different herbs, and it's not your basic astrology. We're going off of the planet that's ruling that zodiac sign, right? So with the Aries, we're talking about dealing with Mars energy, right? Mars is very prominent in that Aries energy. So, and Taurus with its Venus energy. You know what I mean? So check all that out. And again, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Wholeness and balance.